Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to everyone to today's session. So inshallah, we will talk with Dr. Dhiya about a special topic. As you can imagine, science, technology, and other fields of knowledge developed rapidly during the golden age of Islam, from the 8th century to the 13th century and beyond, giving us things like medical surgeries and algebra. There have been incredible advances in science made by Muslims during this particular period. During this time, the Islamic world stretched from the Arabian Peninsula, east end of China, and as far as west of Africa and southern Spain, today's Andalusia, Al-Andalus. To Muslims, the mission to understand the world was a religious one as well as a scientific one. There was no difference between the two. The diversity and blend of cultures within the massive Islamic empire made early science cosmopolitan, which means inclusive in nature. Everyone was included. Great cities like Baghdad, the capital city of modern-day Iraq, became the city of the intellectual and scientific inquiry in the world. With our special speaker today, Dr. Dhiya Al-Jumeily, which will be introduced by Brother Muhammad shortly, we will engage in a motivational and educational conversation where we will learn about the contributions of Muslims in the development of science and technology and look at Andalusia as an example. Today's session is a very interesting one, and I encourage you all to listen to it closely and engage with it. You will get the opportunity to ask your questions at the end. Over to you, brother.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum all. Thank you for giving us your time. So introducing Professor Dr. Dhiya, he is a Professor of Artificial Intelligence and the President of E-Systems Engineering Society. He has extensive research interests covering a wide variety of interdisciplinary perspectives concerning theory and practice of applied artificial intelligence in medicine, human biology, environment, intelligent community, and healthcare. He has published well over 300 peer-reviewed scientific international publications, 12 books and 14 chapters in multidisciplinary research areas, including machine learning, natural networks, signal prediction, and many, many others we don't have time to mention. Professor Dhiya is also a successful entrepreneur. He is the head of enterprise for the Faculty of Engineering and Technology. Professor Dhiya is also a senior member of the IEEE and a chartered IT professional. He is also a fellow of the UK Higher Education Academy. He is an associate dean and head of enterprise at the Faculty of Engineering and Technology, as I mentioned, in Liverpool John Moores University from 2014 to the present day. In terms of qualifications, Dr. Dhiya has a bachelor's degree in mathematics, a master's degree in applied mathematics, an MPhil in computer science, and a PhD in software engineering. Professor Dhiya has many other achievements and notable awards. One of the most notable was in the 31st of December 2020, when he was promoted and appointed by the Queen to receive an OBE. This was due to his services to the scientific research. May I please ask Dr. Dhiya to give us an idea of why and how and what's the reason why he received this such a prestigious award of the OBE. تفضل أستاذ.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Thank you very much, Engineer Muhammad and Miss Asma, for this beautiful introduction. I was received this basic OBE, which is the Order of British Empire, as you mentioned, Muhammad, at the end of 2020 for my contribution to basically science, or they call it science achievement. I work actually closely with Liverpool Hospital, Liverpool Elderly Hospital, and Walton Center. This is one part of my work, and I have developed with my colleagues and my friends at the university and my research group a lot of ideas, especially developing a lot of we call it cutting edge ideas that have changed the way we deal with basically deal with things. I say we deal with things because there are two diverse things which, as I am quite advanced with, or quite developed quite advanced algorithms to support this technology. One of them, basically, it is one part which is medical. Medical, there are two things which is we have developed with my group at the university, starting with the clots of blood in the brain. When you have clots of blood in the brain, what they do traditionally, or before, all the style, they used to have neurosurgeons to open the head and try to take this clots of blood. Things has moved on, and we have now new technology. And the new technology, we have like radiologists, what we call them, in intervention radiologists, where they send small coil from the thigh of the patient all the way to the brain, and then they take the actual clots of blood from the brain. When I talk about coil, actually is the thickness of your hair. So they send it all the way, and they use physics by changing the pressure, because there is coil inside coil. They change the pressure and they move up from there. And they use a lot of of course, they use the 3D MRI, plus they put some dye within the blood. So it's very complicated procedure, we call it, no operation. There are only 81 doctor or practitioners in the whole UK. And what's happened within, if you can do it, if you can take the blood, this clots of the blood out of the brain, or out of where it's blocking the vein within 3 hours, then nothing will happen to the patient. I mean, it can go back normal. After that will be complication. After 6 hours, you will lose part of your limbs, or you cannot move or control part of the limbs, and there is a lot of complication until the death. So what we are doing, we are using augmented reality to develop, and the problem with this technology, or the problem of training people to use this procedure, is it takes 3 years to train one person, 3 years. So imagine, we want to have this technology in every single hospital. All the Northwest, we have only Walton Center, they do it. So about 9, I think there are 9 hospitals. If there is a problem like that, they send it to Walton Center, and Walton Center, they have to do these procedures. And where the idea is, if we can develop some sort of tool and a technique that can help in the training of the doctors or the radiologists, then that will produce more doctors will have these skills. That means we will save life, and we get better quality for life for the people even who have recovered from this. So what I'm doing with my team, we are developing augmented reality, and augmented reality is a virtual reality plus real reality to basically to use for the doctor to train to train their staff, or their young staff with this procedure. Another thing I am working closely with, which is have basically helped on getting my OBE, it is working with law and law enforcement. I cannot tell a lot about that because I have signed with them a non-disclosure agreement. And the idea basically, if I trying to say something which has affecting, or without revealing some of the technologies which is we are using because of the sensitivity element of it, it's basically in the future we are developing systems that help judges with their decision, as well as it will help lawyer if they want to take the case or no, and as well as help the actually the person who has a case to go to see which lawyer and to see what is the percentage of the success of the case and if he's guilty or not guilty. Plus, it will eliminate a lot of effort from the lawyers. It will make the law a little bit more reasonable for the normal people. So these are the things which I've been doing. Plus, as you said, I have been publishing a lot in the UK in the last 20 years. And so that's a little brief of why I did get my OB. And of course, دعاء الوالدين ودعاء الأصدقاء والأحباب والدعم الأصدقاء والأحباب اللي وصلنا هنا. That means the support of my friends, support of the people around me, support of the people who they believe in me. Some of them are actually my students, because to get OBE, that means you need somebody to complete form and send it, and And I have like some good friends and good brothers who have actually believed in me and have written that form and basically send it and managed to get the references and all that. So they done jobs behind the scene, which is I didn't know about. And so Alhamdulillah, they believed in me, and I reached this point. Thank you very much, Muhammad.
MashaAllah. Give it over to Sister Asma for the first question, inshallah.
So in terms of my first question, I'll go deep into a particular region that I am very passionate about, which is Andalusia, which is in South Spain, to those who don't know where it is. And I just wanted to know, how did the Muslims in Andalusia integrated with non-Muslims?
Okay. This is for the audience. I have to give you a secret. This is for the audience, not for Asma and Muhammad. I have given the question in advance, and so that's a little bit secret. So they have plagiarized the question for me, so I can. So this is why I thought I won't tell them that I would like you to ask any question, but the question is a brilliant question. It's been plagiarized. It's been given to me in advance, so I prepared myself. So if I sound very knowledgeable, that means I have prepared myself. That's the truth. And I am not a historian, but I am very passionate, as Asma said, about science and Islam. Given the credit to the people who are working on this area, some of my colleagues and some of my colleagues, two names comes to me. There is a guy, there is a professor from Surrey, a professor, an Iraqi professor. His name Jim Al-Khalili. He comes on BBC and he talk about science and Islam. And if you want to know more about science and Islam, just listen to his YouTube broadcast. It is brilliant. And I have a lot of knowledge about this area because of I listen to his work, to his speeches and his trips, and I read. At the same time, I do read a lot of historian books. And there is a book which is written by another Muslim professor, Salim Al-Hassani, Professor Salim Al-Hassani from Manchester. So we've got two local people here. And I mentioned actually three people today. I mentioned Salim Al-Hassani, Professor Salim Al-Hassani. He wrote a book called 1001 Innovation. ألف ليلة وليلة. That means ألف على غرار ألف ليلة وليلة. That mean there is a famous like a book called 1001 Arabian Night. So he made that 1001 innovation, Islamic innovation. It's a brilliant book. You can read it in a lot of different languages, and I think they talk about Islam and the Islam innovation, and he talked about it brilliantly. So these the two people have influenced my reading about this. Another people who influenced the reading about the stuff, it is basically the people who have moved from engineering to mathematics and maths to engineering. And I'll talk about them in a minute. But I will start answering your question, Asma, by saying there is a saying by a professor who died recently, only 3 months ago, called Abdurrahman Al-Hajji. He was living in Spain for 50 years to study Al-Andalus and the influence of Islam on the Spanish culture. And actually, we shouldn't say Islamic culture, we call our Spanish culture, we call it Islamic Spain. We had, I think you know by now that Muslims have ruled Spain for 800 years. It's not 1 day or 2 years or 5 years, 800 years. And they used to call it Islamic Spain. Professor Abdurrahman Al-Hajji have said something before he died. He said, without Al-Andalus, that means without Al-Andalus, no, without Islam, there will be no Al-Andalus. And without Al-Andalus, there will be no European advancement in science and culture. I wish I have spoken to him before he died, and I will answer him with one question. I will ask his permission to add one thing to that sentence. I'll say, without Baghdad will be no Islamic heritage in terms of science and academia. And I'm sorry, maybe I say I'm a little bit biased toward Baghdad because I'm from Baghdad. And without Islamic science and technology will be no Al-Andalus, and without Al-Andalus there will be no European advancement in science and technology. And today I will try to link this story together, taking a lot of the materials which I'm going to talk about from Professor Jim Al-Khalili's work. So the question, your question about Al-Andalus, basically it is the place where a lot of Muslims have ruled it, but they gave one thing which is very important to the rest of the communities and the cultures, and especially to the Christian and to the Jews. They gave them the freedom to think, freedom to involve in society. They protected them under what you call it Ahl al-Kitab. We have in Islam something called Ahl al-Kitab. So they were a protected community. They have, as long as they pay a jizya, I mean, we have to be honest on that one. They had to pay jizya. They have to pay tax to the Muslims because they are not Muslim, but they were protected. They were involved in a lot of part of the society. Usually the Christian, they were involved with the council, and they were involved with looking after the city and all that. The Muslim, they were involved with keeping the peace and keeping the security and the army, while the Jews, they used to be involved in a lot of the finance, and at the same time involving in a lot of the development of science and technology. So they were learning from that. Yes, Asma, shall I carry on, or you ask me more question to follow?
I'll hand over to Muhammad. I think he's got a question.
Okay.
Thank you, mashallah, what a great explanation, and introducing many other great professors and doctors. Mentioning Professor Salim Al-Hassani from Manchester, one of our questions is actually relating to one of his books, the one you've mentioned, the 1001 Inventions, Islamic Inventions. In his research, he has noticed that there's a gap of about 1,000 years, close to around 800 years mostly. And this gap it's a gap that is missing in the history of science, taught science in schools mainly. So this gap as well also coincides with the European Dark Ages. So what is this gap, and how did the global civilizations spring back after the European Dark Ages? If those 1,000 years did not contain any notable scientific innovations, how does it make sense? What happened in this gap? Could you please let us know?
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Muhammad, about this question. It is really, it's a forgotten time, the forgotten time. And actually it's not forgotten. We have been forced to forget that gap. And I'm going to explain it as a story, okay? Because it is afternoon or Saturday, all of us, Ramadan and fasting. So I'm going to tell you like a story rather than academic work. Let me tell you the story, what happened. I will start the story from the end, and then I go to the back. Why did we not know in the school about that time? 800 to 1,000 years of civilization, I say it, of science, of technology, of development. It has been done in purpose because the European, when they occupied the Muslim countries after the falling of Islamic Empire, they could not handle that. They are ruling these people, and these people actually have formed the development of the science and technology in Europe. They couldn't handle that. So the superior thinking of that time of the people, of the British people and the French people. I'm not saying now, because now there's equality. I'm talking about at the past. And they think there are more superior than the people living in Muslim countries. I'm talking about all Muslim countries. Could be North Africa, Middle East, and Far East, and Iran and Turkey. They couldn't handle that. So what they did, they made sure in purpose to basically to hide that history or to hide it from us. Well, thanks to people like the people I mentioned, and thanks to you now with asking me this question, we are revealing that. And then that's the end of the story. Let's begin the story. How did we begin the story? And how did I thought this is the reason why they have been forgotten, been forced to forget. And I will tell you the reason at the same time. Why did we stop developing as Muslim country and community? And where did we start with our science and technology? Will you allow me to do that, Muhammad and Isma?
Yeah, go ahead. It's fine.
Okay. Nabiullah Ibrahim, Asma, where did he come from, Nabiullah Ibrahim?
I meant to be asking questions, not answering. Palestine?
I thought we are helping each
That's
other.
fine. But yeah, is that the right answer?
Where did it say?
Palestine?
Palestine. Okay, he was living in Palestine actually, and I'm glad I asked you the question. Actually, he was, and I'm going to link it to what I am going to talk about. And if you just basically, if you don't mind me, I ask a question. Actually, he was born in Baghdad, in Ur, where the Pope have visited Ur in Baghdad, and he lived in Palestine. But when he was born, he was looking at the sky. Yeah? He wanted to find somebody to follow. He wanted to find Allah. Yeah. And what did he do, Muhammad? He looked at the moon. Didn't we have in the Quran? He looked at the moon, and he thought the moon is our, Allah. Isn't that correct? We have ayah. And then he looked at the sun, and the moon disappeared, and the sun disappeared. So from all the time, as a human being, we look at the sky and we try to make sense of the sky, try to make sense of the moon, and that's it. So we have started all from the past history, the Greek, the Roman, the Egyptian, the Chinese. They looked at the sky and they look at the moon because they look things around them. They have the earth, which they stand on. They have the sun during the day, and they have the moon and the stars during the night. And this is where they study. All the science have started with astronomy. Okay, and we inherited something from the past that the sun. We are we are on this earth. We are like the earth, like a still earth, just like it's the center of the atmosphere, and everything goes around the earth. This is what happened. This is what we inherited from the Greek and from the past. So all the science which has been developed actually is developed around astronomy, because astronomy, the things which is the thing we feel around us. Islamic scholar start challenging this idea. Okay, and how do we know that? We knew that going back to the history. Okay, we have found actually some of the researchers have found in Italy, north of Italy, in Copernicus, they call it a professor called Copernicus, which is Polish astronomy. In his book, he has mentioned the name of Al-Battani. Al-Battani actually comes from Syria, and all his works, which is I'm talking about Copernicus' work about astronomy, he published a book which was the center of astronomy in the world in the recent development. He mentioned Al-Battani, and he used his data and his observation of the planets, okay, and he developed on top of it, so that the first link goes back to the science which is we have. Of course, we have other science, but I'm talking about the astronomy, which is the start of everything. So then the concern was at the time, okay, the Muslim scholars are trying to show that is the sun moving around the earth, or is the earth moving around the sun? And actually, they have proven that the sun actually, we are basically moving around the sun. So it is the center of the atmosphere, and that of course have changed the whole thing. And the concept of using just basically the concept of starting formalizing that, it started actually with the Islamic scholars. After that, Ibn al-Haytham came and he said, okay, anybody say anything, it has to be proven mathematically, and start doing the calculation actually. Okay. And then what other things why did the Islamic scholar focus on astronomy? They wanted to because in Islam we wanted to know that what time we have to pray Fajr, what time we have to pray Dhuhr, Asr, and so all that depends on what? It depends on basically on the sun, okay, and it depends which month of the year, because basically the time in winter different than summer. It depends, and you are changing the time. So the Islamic scholar started their work on astronomy by trying to specify the time of the prayer, and that require a lot of science. And actually, they have found, we call it, what do they call it? They call it the sundial, which is very important to every mosque to get exact time for prayer. They didn't have mobile, and then Al-Taysir will ring Al-Rahman and say, hello, you have to, now we're going to start Al-Fajr. They didn't have, they had to do, so each single, look at this one, each single mosque at the time, they used to have sundial to figure out what time to do the prayer. And that have created a lot of science scholars which basically focusing on astronomy. And I said astronomy, actually you need physics, you need mathematics, and you need chemistry and the rest of it. And this is where things have started. And actually, and this is fact, Islamic scholar brought standard and precision and mathematical proof to many of the astronomical work, and they even calculated the size of the earth within 1% error for now. At that time, they calculated the size of the earth, and they found now, the astronomers found out there is only 1% mistake on that. And by the way, the name of the planets, it's about 80% of them, they have an Arabic name. That means 80% of these planets which we have at the moment, it's been discovered by Arab astronomers. Okay, shall I carry on, or you want to tell me to ask question?
I think Mohammed's got a question.
Yep.
Yeah. Second question from me is, how has, we mentioned, you've mentioned how Islam has influenced, the start of science, looking at the sky, etc., etc. But the problem is nowadays people look at, religion, and they look at science as two separate things. Let's do these scientific things, or let's keep religion out of the picture, etc., etc. So the question is, how has Islam, for example, just one small example, how has Islam, the Islamic mosque, how has it influenced the formation of formal education worldwide?
Okay, actually, that's a very good question. As you know, mosques is the place which is, we think at the moment, is place just for a prayer. Go, we pray, we do Taraweeh and all that. At the past, actually, the mosque is the place where you do a lot of different things. The place where if there is a problem between people, you solve it in the mosque. If there is any teaching or any education, it will happen in the mosque. Because the word mosque is actually, Muhammad, you gave me some hints with to answer this question. So I will give you the hint you gave me, and I will give my own answer. So Muhammad wrote to me, I think you should say the following. You should say, mosque is like Jami'. Jami', that means the place where you gather people everywhere. I hope I am not embarrassing you, Muhammad. It's just a joke. So
it's fine. You're letting out the secrets. Yeah, go ahead.
So it's just a joke. So it's the place. Muhammad, he gave me some hints, which was a brilliant hint, actually. And actually, I didn't know this the hint. And he managed to link between the word al-Jami'. Al-Jami' in Arabic mean the place where you gather. And al-Jami'a, which is basically the female word of al-Jami', which is basically al-Jami'a. It is the word for university in in Arabic. And by the way, the first university in the whole world, it was in the Islamic, one of the cities in Islamic in Morocco actually started. And one of the first school in the world started in Al-Mustansiriya in Baghdad. And the first two research center in the whole world started in the what we call a House of Wisdom in Baghdad. So, and if you know, well, everybody, we are all Muslim. And the first word in Quran, Iqra, or the first word was given to Prophet Muhammad from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is Iqra. Iqra, that means read. So we are, as Muslim, this is part of our culture. And I will go back to your question and answer it a little bit differently. Do you know that the Christian, they used to have their pride and their like they think that in Europe, they use religion as the way to advance. They say, we understand the faith, we understand the spirit, we understand all that. This is why we are advanced. Until something came, which is the Muslim have introduced. Our religion actually based on facts, based on faith and fact. And I'm sorry for, I'm not a Muslim scholar. Yeah, I mean, I understand Islam, but I'm not like advanced on it. But everything we do, which is basically it based on logic, and at the same time, we can explain things. And it comes from our language, the Arabic language, or the language of Quran. The language of Quran, actually, it paid big thing in Islam, and it paid in two ways. Actually, it is advanced the science, but at the same time, stop the development of exploring or expanding or expanding or what shall I say, exporting our science to the rest of the world. So you'll ask me how, and I will link it. The first thing, in 1200 years ago, the human being, this is the start of this, since we landed on this earth, Adam and Eve, we start looking at things because we are intelligent. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us intelligent. And this is why he said to the shaitan, so there is ayah about our intelligence. And we start doing things, and we start using a lot of tools. We start developing basically the tires. We start developing a lot of different things. The wheel, I mean. And we start developing different things. And then we had a lot of different culture and different civilization. We have the Indian civilization, we have the Greek civilization, and we have basically the Egyptian civilization, Babylon civilization. When Islam came, what he did with the language, okay, he separated a little bit the language than the actual religion. He made an environment in Baghdad by inviting everybody from all over the world to come to Baghdad and to start doing science and start doing technology, start doing astronomy, start doing medicine. And then by that time, they had to, how do these people, they speak together? I say it all the time, and people, they say science actually is the common language for a human race, okay? The science is the common language of a human race, but the human race has to communicate somehow. They said, okay, let it translate all the old books to Arabic. And they did it in Baghdad. So they translated it to Arabic language. And from the Arabic language, which is a very good language to communicate with that time, if you learn it, then it translated all whatever happened, and then they started. So the science with Muslim did not start from nowhere. Actually, it was based on the Greek and the Egyptians and the Indian, but they put it together and they started something new. What's the new thing we started and we are proud of? We started algebra, we started medicine and astronomy. And we have changed one theory in astronomy, which is basically, this is the door to Europe. And this is the door to Newton on the discovery of gravity. Actually, the Newton discovery of gravity actually depends on the Muslim science work. And it came through Italy, through Copernicus work. And what they done, the Muslims have discovered that the earth actually moves around the sun rather than the other way around, and they have proved it mathematically. Okay, so the language and it was separate than the actual faith. The faith was used to fuel the science because we believe in science, we believe in technology, we believe in development. But what's happened is they have made us, and I say they have made us by occupying these Muslim countries at the past, they have made us to think that Islam is only old things, is for old style, for old. It is not true. It's not true at all. Islam is for the advancement. Islam respects science. The Khalifas in all the time, and the rulers of the Muslim empires, all the time they used to pay or they used to have a lot of fund toward the development of science and technology. So that's one thing about the Arabic language. The other thing about Arabic language I mentioned here, the Arabic language, actually, the Muslim people have made a big mistakes. And you will say to me, how did the science came to Europe? It came actually from two parts. It came from Spain, Al-Andalus, which is the passion of Asma and myself and a lot of people. And because at that time, when they were in Al-Andalus, anybody living in Al-Andalus, they were free to travel anywhere. So what they used to do is basically like the European now, when Britain used to be part of Europe, they used to come and study here, yeah, free of charge. At that time, they used to go to Baghdad and other Muslim cities and study and get knowledge and go back to Andalus. A lot of architects, they came all the way from Syria and from Morocco and from other part from Egypt, and they came to Andalus and they start basically building. And all the time you've got to remember one thing which is very important: science need money, research need money, development need money, and there is a lot of money spent in Andalus, which is fueled that. So that's one part where basically the European have learned a lot of like method, technique, science, mathematics, there. But if we reverse it, Arabic language was still very difficult language to write and to print. And believe it or not, and that I learned from Professor Al-Khalili, that Venice was the place where actually a lot of science came from Muslim countries to Europe. And Venice used to have two things: a lot of trade with Muslim countries and a lot of trade. And the second thing which they used to have, they started first printing like companies, and they start printing text. And the Muslim, they were against printing the text. And that was the difficulties why a lot of our textbook did not come through Europe directly. They translated and came, and through that translation actually being plagiarized. So that a lot of actually books which came to Europe, they translated it, the author being removed, and they put a new author, and it came to Europe. And this is why that answering that first question you said to me, 1,000 years. 1,000 years, yes, it's gone. But thanks to some of the wording which we still have, like the name of the planets and some of the planets and some of the stars, and at the same time al-Jabra and al-Khwarizmi is still this part of the inheritance of our Islamic science and technology. Yes, Muhammad.
SubhanAllah, mashallah. Mentioning the free of movement and how it influenced, and now we have Brexit. SubhanAllah. Do you want to go ahead, Asma?
Yeah. Just back to Al-Andalus. All of my questions about Al-Andalus, I'm so passionate about it, and just linking talking about the legacies of the Islamic heritage. What are the legacies of the Islamic heritage in Andalusia in terms of architecture as well as academia? So what is studied in universities and colleges now that links to the Islamic influences, as well as if we go to Spain, I'm not sure if many have been, it's a beautiful country, but if you go to the southern part of Spain, what will you see that reminds you of the Islamic conquest or Islamic presence in Spain?
Okay, brilliant. We call it Islamic, we call it maybe from now on, as Muslim, we should say Islamic Spain, because 800 years. So I think we should have this term, Islamic Spain. By the way, this is for the benefit of the audience. I don't have this. The answer to this question is not being given to me, but the question being given to me in advance. But I will answer it by I am passionate about Spain. When the first time, I think Asma, you've been to Spain. First time you go to Spain and start looking at the name of the roads, yeah, you will start thinking, oh my God, what's happened? What is this? So the name of the roads, yeah, is still Islamic word. There is a city called Al-Medina, yeah. There is a city in Spain called Al-Medina. So majority of the cities there still they have the Arabic name, okay. If you look at the sign of some of the shops and you just focus on the sign of the shops, you will find, for example, I want to show there is a shop for modeling, and it was Azizi's shop. So I went and asked, is that shop belong to an Arab guy? I thought, no, this is Spanish, Azizi. So there is called Azizi, which is so there is a lot of the names still going there. Okay, so the name of the roads, the shape of the roads. I've been, if you go to Syria and Baghdad, old Baghdad, and if you go to Spain, and you go to Morocco, you will find it's like you are going to the same cities. The way being designed, the arches, the Arabic arches, all the same. And by the way, if you go to Al-Hamra, it is enough explanation on everything. There is a video, and I'm sure you've seen that video. Everybody's seen the video. Al-Hamra, or Qasr al-Hamra, or Hamra Palace, being designed mathematically. And this is the link between maths and architecture. And this is, if you know, I'm sure you know a lady called Zoha Hadid. Zoha Hadid, it is #1 architect in the world, dominated for about 20 years, died about 4 or 5 years ago. Zoha Hadid, she was trained as a mathematician, and then she moved to become an architect. And Zoha Hadid, she used a lot of curves, and some of the curves she used, it has a lot of difficulty to build. But because she was a mathematician, she can do calculation to prove that this can be done. And an existing example, it is a bridge called Sheikh Zayed Bridge in Abu Dhabi. When they start building it, they couldn't do it because they thought it's going to fall. So she said to them, no, build it. And she did the calculation for them. And if you go there, you see the challenge of it. The same to do when you go to Al-Andalus. If you look at some of the arches there, you look at them and you say, and some of the dome, you say, subhanallah, how this is being standing there standing there? It's all mathematically being calculated by Muslim scholars. That's one thing. And the second thing, which is important, Arabic language is very, I'll talk about the influence. Arabic language is, they used to be very proud of the language and still very proud of the language, but at the past, they used to tell a lot of poem. And what we call it, Islamic Spain, have been influenced by these poems, influenced by the universities which is being put there now. And some of the universities, if you go and walk in it, and basically you see the actual feel and the taste of Islamic heritage as a Muslim, especially if you have lived in some of the Arabic world or Muslim countries, then you will feel that. So yes, it has influence. And one of the things, by the way, influence, it is al-Qanun. Al-Qanun, the word al-Qanun, that means the rules to be obeyed by the nation. Actually, it came from Islamic Spain all the way to Europe. So yes, you find everywhere the influence of Islam there.
If you allow me just to add to that, because you've mentioned Qal'at al-Hamra or Alhambra Palace in Granada, what you'll see as you take a tour inside the palace is a lot of Arabic calligraphy writing on the wall, on the ceilings, everywhere, La ghaliba illallah. And it gives you a really great feeling when you see the words in Arabic, let alone the meanings of what's there. It's just very inspirational and very good to give it a visit or even research the subject. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, you said it. You will find a lot of Arabic. And by the way, I mean, and it's not right. I was trying to visit that, so I drive and trying to find it. It was very difficult, and we didn't have GPS at the time. To try to find it. When you ask people they don't want to admit. I mean, unfortunately, I mean the way. By the way, the way the Muslim have treated the Christian and the Jews at that time is better than the Christian treated the Jews before before we call it Islamic Spain. And I am not being biased or anything. This is basically in the history. You look at the history books, and so the Muslim have treated the other people differently. And just I want to mention something, which is because you are the heritage. By the way, still people coming from Muslim country is still there. The people living there, but they are actually Christian. So if you check their DNA, actually they come there because they were just to basically this is more of understanding what is the mix in Spain of the people. You look sometime when I used to first time I came here, which is at the end of the 80s, people they used to say to me, "Are you Spanish?" You know, they used to say, because I've got dark skins and black hair, "Are you Spanish?" And do you know why they say, "Are you Spanish?" Because because Muslim people who came there, they were three type of nation. They were the Arab from Middle East and North Africa, and they were the Barban, and they call them the Mauludin. It's like people say they call you guys because you are Maulud here. That means you were born here. They call you Mualladin here, Mualladin. So they are actually mixed between a father, which is Arabic father, okay, and Spanish woman or Portugalian woman. So they were mixed. So it is mixed. The only problem, they were a little bit tough and unfair when basically they had a problem, and they basically when they took over Spain, what they done, they made sure that either you become Christian or they kill you. You cannot become Muslim, and this is why you don't find a lot of Muslims in Spain, like Spanish Muslim. And one thing which is important to prove that they don't want Islam, Spanish, they never ate pork because it's hot country, and in hot countries usually you avoid eating pork because it's fatty meat, fatty. They have fat meat. I'm talking about for non-Muslim. Okay, what they did, they made sure that in every meal they have pork to prove that you are not Muslim, and that was a little bit tough and unfair on at that time. Mohammed.
Jazakallah khair. A lot of information here. The next question is it's a very vague question. So I mean, you've mentioned a lot of things, and I'm trying to keep an eye on the time here. Just a comment for all the participants for the questions that we will answer them towards the end, inshallah. So the question is, you've mentioned a lot of innovations and inventions, of and how they've influenced, from the past to today. But if you concentrate on today's life, everyday's life, what has Islamic innovations played on inventions on today's everyday life?
Okay, two things which I mentioned. There is a lot of things, by the way, but a lot of things. But one thing which is important, we are on the Industry Revolution 4, yeah? We call it Industry Revolution 4 or 4.0, okay? Islam have started the first industrial revolution, and I call it the forgotten industry. To link to your question, Muhammad, in the first question when he said, what is the 1,000 year? The forgotten industry. Our industry now, which is the new industry 4.0, depend on basically on data, and we call it complex data or unstructured data or big data. Muslims in Baghdad, they were playing with big data, and through that they discovered two things. Now we are using it. The computer in front of you, I say it was the influence of Islamic science and Islamic technology, because it used 0101. And zero was created by Al-Khwarizmi in Baghdad 1200 years ago. That's one thing. The second thing, every single thing, which is, this is for the people who write programs, everything, programs, we call them, when you write program, you write inside the program instruction, collection of logical connected expressions or instructions, we call them algorithms. Algorithms goes back to Al-Khwarizmiyat. Al-Khwarizmiyat linked to Al-Khwarizmi. Al-Khwarizmi is one of the top or one of the best scholar in the whole world. He have changed two things. He created the zero and created Al-Khwarizmiyat. Then he created Al-Jabr. Al-Jabr, you cannot do astronomy without Al-Jabr. You cannot mathematics without. I think you have done engineering, yeah, Muhammad, and you do a lot of Al-Jabra, yeah. So Al-Jabra comes from Al-Jabr. Al-Jabr is the healing of the bones, and it comes from that. So that's just a simple thing. Astronomy is a big thing. Medicine, you know, a lot of, you know, a lot of the tools they use these days with medicine actually goes back to Islamic culture. But I want to know, for the people to know something which is very important. The question, which is why did why this is stopped? Why the Islam have stopped? Islamic science have stopped, and because history have not telling us, for some of us, how did they stop and how did they destroy? There is three facts, and I'm going to tell them quickly. The first fact is the attack of Baghdad by the Mongol. By the Mongol have basically attacked Baghdad, and what they done. And Islam, they care about libraries. If you go to any mosque, little mosque now, you'll find a little library inside it. So library was created by the Muslim people. It created by the Islamic heritage, because Prophet Muhammad used to encourage us to learn. تعلموا من المهدي إلى اللحدي تعلموا لو كان العلم بالصين. All that came from our Islamic heritage. So learning is very, very important for us. So libraries was big thing. You know, when the Mongol attacked Baghdad, the first thing what they done, they put all the books in the river of Tigris River, and they say for 3 to 4 days the color of the river, it was blue because of the color of the ink. So this is how much we lost. That's one thing, which is basically destroyed the Islamic advancement in science and technology. The second thing, which is basically the discovery of the New World by Columbus. When Columbus discovered the New World, discovered America, okay, everything in the world centered around money, and they started bringing a lot of gold from there. And in Britain, especially to Europe, especially to Spain and to Italy. And then because this Atlantis route, Britain became very rich at the time. So they start like putting a lot of money for science. And this is why, and this is not my saying, this is Al-Khalili's saying, this is why they say the best book about astronomy was written by somebody like in Newton in London rather than in Baghdad, because they start putting, like now, they put a lot of money in research. So, and that basically the second thing. And the third thing, which is basically influence, I'll go back to Asma, her passion. We used to have 2 big libraries, one library in Baghdad, and another copy of the library. It was actually in where is it? In Al-Andalus, in Granada. Used to have there are 2 main cities. It's Cordoba and Granada. And what we have a library. So what they done, they brought all the books from the library on the main square, and they banned all of them. They left only and all the Arabic books, which is, when I say Arabic book, remember, you've got to remember at that time, it's like now the language we are speaking English, yeah? The science language, English. We want to publish in English. At the time, if we want to publish books, we don't publish we want to publish book, has to be written in Arabic. So all the scientific books of Arabic book was banned in that main square from that library, except a small amount of medical books which was left, and that was the disaster. And this is where that the second thing, which is third things, was affected our scientific advancement, and why did they basically they hidden 1,000 years of development of science and development in the Arab country. And the fourth things, which is I mentioned, the difficulty of printing Arabic words, and the Muslims refused to print it because they printed the Al-Quran. It was full of mistake. They said, no, we cannot do that. And that have stopped the development of printing some of our books to export to Europe. Mohammed or Asma.
Thank you. Just a note to the participants in terms of the time, we will carry on given the significance and importance of this topic. So we won't be ending at 3 o'clock. I'll just add one more question from my side, and hopefully we'll get into the questions asked by the participants. So my question is, how can we as Muslims here in the UK, in England, connect with Islamic heritage in Spain, and what benefits will such connection have on our presence today? You've answered some of this, but maybe add more. So how can we connect with the Islamic Spain?
You can connect. Okay, it's simple. First of all, there is nobody superior on other people. All of us the same. We're all equal. English and not English and all that. That's first thing. The second thing, we need to start believing in ourselves and believing in what we have done. Let's go back to the basic. The basic saying, okay, we have to learn. We have to advance. Al-amal ibadah. So dirasa ibadah, that's been part of our religion. We have to learn. We have to believe in ourselves. We have to go to the basic, and we don't say this is basically white and this is black and this is no. We are equal. We have to use our own basically al-amana with ta'amul. That means we have to be we believe in ourselves, and we make sure that when we develop something, we finish it properly. I mean, I noticed that, by the way, we have to be a little bit proud of what we are doing at the moment. I mean, not everything like gloomy. There are things which is happening. There are things happening in some of Arabic countries, some of the Muslim countries, and Indonesia doing good work in research. We've got Malaysia, we've got Turkey, we've got Iran, we've got some of the people, we've got Saudi Arabia doing some research. We've got some of the UAE. And I'm not going to involve in politics. I'm talking about just as nations, Egypt developing things. And at the same time, there are some of the Muslims people have influenced the world at the moment, at this second. We have the biggest problem in the world is the COVID-19. The vaccine which is being developed by Shaheen and Oslam, the two Muslims in Germany, that's a big thing, and they are Muslim. So Muslim scholars, okay, they live in Germany, but they are still Muslim scholars. So how to connect with it? We have to be proud of what we have, but at the same time, every single Muslim should read about the history to learn from it. And I say, inspired by the past to motivate the future. We need to inspire what our father and mother have done and contributed to the science and technology and the development of this world. We are very proud to say the first industrial revolution have started in the Muslim countries, and the Muslim science and technology and development have contributed to every single element of development in Europe. Yes, in the last 300-400 years, we were a little bit stuck. We have not developed a lot of science technology, but I do believe there are a lot of young people like yourself going to contribute to this world. And I say it again, basically science is the common language of the human race. Let's be proud of our heritage. Let's be proud to be Muslims. Let me try to be and say to the people that our faith actually is not an ancient faith. It's not an old faith. Actually, Islam is the latest faith in this world. You know that, the latest and the last. Okay, so we need to tell them that Islam encourages us to learn. Islam encourages us to advance. Islam encourages us to innovate. Islam doesn't have border. You've got to basically be kind to everybody. And when it comes to ethics with science, Islam would actually, the rules of ethics would sign. Thank you very much.
Jazakallah khair. Shall I start with the first questions from the audience, Asma?
Yeah,
So thank you. So inshallah, the first question is from someone with the name SH. I just want to remind everyone before we continue that someone said they've missed something. This is recorded on YouTube, and you'll be able to access it later on if you've missed anything. So the question is, they mentioned that there's research in the UK which highlights that Muslim students in the UK are not quite attaining their career goals. And they say this is to many challenges related to socio-economic factors. So from your experience, Dr. Professor, what advice would you give young Muslims to encourage them in pursuing their career goals?
Okay, well, first of all, thank you very much for this question. Very, very interesting question. And I relate to my work at the university. We have problem. I mean, if the problem, it comes not from the young Muslim people, it comes from their families. Their family does not support them to go to university. Especially, I will now focus on, I'm going to talk about our own culture, especially the Arab. If you look at the Indian and the Pakistani and other nations, Muslim, actually their families, they encourage their kids to go to universities. And this is why we have the mayor of London is Muslim, even though his father, and he's very proud to say his father was a bus driver, but he became the second generation, he became the mayor of Liverpool, mayor of London, sorry. Why is that? Because of the family. What with the problem we have? We have the problem that we are not basically encouraging families, not encouraging their kids to go to university. That's one thing. The second thing, we have an opportunity now. A Muslim youngster have an opportunity now. Why? Because the university is now giving a little advantage to the minor community or minor ethnic community, to say, because they come from underprivileged community, sometimes they say it. So they give them like even a little advantage at the university to try to balance. And Liverpool John Moores University trying to encourage people from our community, from Muslim community, to join the university. So please, if you have if you need any help, let us know. We've got, we've got Dr. Suhaib, Dr. Muhammad Mahyoub, we've got Brother Farhat, and we've got a lot of people. And I'm sorry if I don't mention some of the names. They are encouraging young people to do that. And a simple thing is the meeting now today, meeting with you guys. I mean, you, Muhammad and Asma, this is basically what you are doing. It's encouragement by the community to trying to be communicating with the rest through somebody basically from the community who is working as a professional like myself. So that's all actually answering to the question. However, we need to do more. And more on your shoulder, Muhammad, more on your shoulder, Asma, because you need to, each of you need to mentor at least 5 to 6 people to get them to the university, youngster, rather than let them go and just do like manual job. And by the way, no criticizing manual job, but if you use smart work, you can get 30 to 40 pounds an hour. If you got manual work, you can get 8 to 9 pounds an hour. Sometimes, to be honest, you can get 400 to 500 per hour for your job if you reach a certain level of knowledge. But to be fair, I am very proud of the youngster around us, especially in Lodge Lane. And we're talking about, I'm saying that because I can see it, that people start getting better and better. Muhammad, an architect. We've got educationalist, which is Asma. At the same time, leadership. In terms of leadership, Asma she got a lot of skills to become a leader in the community, and all that will help Muhammad. And
Thank you, Jazakallah khair, for that, Dr. Professor. The second question is from Abdi, and it says, what was the motivation behind the pursuit of science, philosophy, logic, language, etc. by many of our scholars? What motivated them? What encouraged them to succeed?
Okay, brilliant. Very interesting, Abdi. Very interesting question. I told you they came back to the basic. The motivation came from when do I have to pray? They started, when do I have to pray? And they start looking at this. And that fuel something else, fuel the language, trying to do translation. And because the translation was very important for them at the time, because people, they come from different from places and with different languages, and that helped them to start looking at different things. So they were focusing on languages, then they moved to start focusing on astronomy, and astronomy required them physics and mathematics, and all that fueled that. That's one thing. And to be fair, all that comes as well with politics. Abdi, politics was playing big game that time. In Al-Abbasi time, or Islamic empire, when Al-Abbasi was building Baghdad, they wanted to do something different, completely different. And what they did, they have built Baghdad as a new thing and made it a circle. And they have chosen the place where they chose it has to be scientifically proven, because they use the place where they hang some meat, and they wanted the place where the meat, it doesn't rotten very quick, and so all that. And then Al Khalifa that time, he put a lot of money to trying to bring scholars from everywhere, okay, so fuel the research, because they were interested to make sure that, because they had the money that time, and they wanted to make sure that putting Islam as something basically can contribute to the development of the world. And that something development, because we have something in Islam, as you know, we've got ilm yantafi' bih. When somebody dies, yeah, he will be cut from this world, except a son will basically yad'u lahu, yeah, and ilm yantafi' min. So the word ilm yantafi' min actually related directly to our religion. So this is ilm, that means science will benefit the rest of the world, and that have encouraged people to do that. I hope I answered Abdi's question.
That was a really good answer. I may just add, if you allow me to, seeing your career or getting into university or studying as a form of ibadah or worship is very motivational. So if you see it as a way to get closer to Allah Azza wa Jal, as a way of fulfilling your duties as a Muslim, you will be motivated in that way, because you see it, you will get rewarded if you see it as a form of worship.
That's absolutely correct. You said it well.
Thank you. Next
Yep.
question, you can ask it, Brother
Yeah.
Muhammad.
Yes, we'll do. SubhanAllah, continuing your point there, we're in Ramadan right now, and there's a lot of students having exams and deadlines, and they may not be able to pray as much in the mosque. They might not be able to pray every single salah in the mosque, etc. And one thing you always got to keep in mind is you know, your education is ibadah as well. So the next question is by Brother Nasif, and he says, Professor Al-Jumeily mentioned that Christians have in the past done atrocities. However, now they realize the importance and promote equality. And he says, at the same time, I have learned that history repeats itself. So he says, Professor, I would like to know your view on it.
Okay. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I forgot one thing, which is basically destroy some of the science and technology of Muslim, which is the crusade. The crusade, which is where it came to Syria and Palestine, have actually destroyed some of the research centers and some of the observatory, where they basically in Syria they have observatory. They used to basically monitor the sky. And to be fair, these days things has changed. The quality has changed. History does not repeat itself as ugly as used to be. However, America have invaded 2 Muslim countries without proof of having, and I am not a politician, and I hope invaded Iraq, for example, on without the permission of the United, what you call it? United Nations, yeah, without the United Nations. So they invaded Iraq, which is and George Bush have used some of the bad words. However, I would say it differently. There's a lot of Christian who was refused that, and they were against it. And in 1990, I've seen, in 2003, sorry, in London, there were 4 million Christians standing there against the basically the invasion of Iraq. So no, there is, to be fair, there is more people now, more acceptance. I mean, come on, all of us, we come from different country and we live in a Christian country, and we have a freedom of having mosques. Yeah. Okay. This is for the young man who asked this question. Do you know if you go and open, if you want to try to open a mosque in some of the Arab countries, it will take you 3 to 4 years to take a license. And for us to open a mosque here, we just basically go and open mosque. We are living in a Christian country. So actually, the history does not repeat itself. We have, as a human being, we have learned from the history. We have people actually standing against people who does wrong things. For example, invasion of Iraq, and there is more justice to the world now than before. This is my own belief, and I am not a politician.
Thank you. I'll ask the next question. So we have a question from Saeed. Do you think the lack of advancements in research in the Muslim world is due to the divide that the West created back in the 1900s?
Definitely. But the Muslim scholars come in very strongly, and believe it or not, because if you look at the publications at the moment, how do we judge the development in research and development? We look at from publication. Just go and look at publication. You will find at least 70% of publication will have a Muslim name in it. 70% around the world. I was calculating it. So Muslim scholars are common in different shapes. So don't worry. Believe in yourself. Coming back to Muhammad about people not going to pray and all that. I mean, yes, al-amal ibadah. Work is some form of ibadah. Yeah, and then I think please guys, believe in yourself. You have something which is very important. You have an inheritance which is basically, or you have heritage which is you've got to respect, and at the same time to show the world we are not thick. I'm going to use this word, and I'm sorry to use it. I mean, I look at some of the data, and they say the student who've fallen behind, all students come from BAME, Black and ethnic minority. Why is that? I'll tell you why. Because we don't have the environment. I've seen a lot of young people in the mosque during Ramadan, and they go and all that, and okay, it's fine. But exam time, should go home. We should encourage them to go home, pray at home, do your study. We need, everybody in Britain they have equalities in terms of everything. If we get the job will get it the person he has the right skills, not the right skin color. So that means you have an opportunity to get a best job. And you can be, any of you can become a minister. Any of you can become a dean of the university or a president of university. But what you need to do, you need to show you have skills equivalent to the other people's skills. I was asked a question. They said, oh, somebody told me at the university that, oh, this year we made like this amount of this number of students, this number of staff, a professor, we have like, or whatever, we gave them promotion. I said, why? They said, because, so they give a promotion because they have the right skill, not giving a promotion because they are women in engineering or because they have different skin color. What we need to do, we need to show everybody as Muslim that we have the skills, we have the brain, and we have actually our Islamic faith to show us we have to do things perfectly. Prophet Muhammad all the time, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, say, when you do things, do it perfectly. Islam saying to you, when you do things, do it perfectly. Don't steal from the time. Even time is stealing. If you are going to work and you spend 1 hour of your time trying to send a private email. This is for me. I am not like I'm not a sheikh of Islam. But I believe this is stolen. You are stealing time. And you know who taught me this? A colleague of mine at the university. One day she comes 9 o'clock, she leaves 5 o'clock, and she's my friend and my colleague at the same time, 22 years. With my office next to her office. And one day I said to her, let's leave 5 to 5. But I go home, usually I do my research. See, Dhiya, she's not a researcher. She said, Dhiya, I've got 5 more minutes to finish. Wallahi, we don't have anybody monitoring us. There is no monitoring. She said 5 minutes. I said, what? So I was like, what do you mean? She said, I cannot leave before 5. I said, but nobody watching us. He said, what do you mean? If I leave before 5 o'clock, that means that 5 minutes I have not worked. And in this case, I take in the money, which I don't deserve. And she is not a Muslim, but it is in the belief. So Islam is the behavior, not the praying. Islam is that mu'amala, how you treat other people. I changed the subject a little bit, but one day I had like an incident in Al-Taysir Mosque. I went out and I found somebody using the F word against one of the neighbors for one reason, because she said to him, this is a car park space for disabled people. Why are you putting your car? He said, it's a free country, FF. And he just did the prayer in Taraweeh. So what we need to do, we need to believe in ourselves using Islam, the ruh of the Islam, the spirit of Islam, the belief in yourself, the behavior, the ta'amul, and al-sidq, being truthful with yourself, with your family, okay? And then the rest of it will fall apart inside the jigsaw.
Thank you so much. Thank you. The time flies with you, subhanAllah. Jazakallah khair. Such an honor and a pleasure to have you. Before I pass over to Muhammad, I would like to remind everyone that tomorrow there's a session on how to establish a Muslim family. And next week, inshallah, there's a seminar on politics and Islam. Jazakallah khair again from my side, and over to you, Muhammad.
Jazakumullah khair, Professor Dr. Dhiya. It's been a pleasure seeing you and speaking to you and hearing from you. Of course, and you're a specialist in one subject and you know, and a lot of other subjects. Subhanallah, mashallah. May Allah give you more success, and may Allah make a lot more of us aspire to become like you. And I want to say even better, but I don't want to upset you.
No, you won't upset me. I want people to be better and better and better. And mashallah, we have even better Muslim scholars around us in Britain. We are very proud of them.
Jazakumullah khair. Barakallah feek, Ustadana. Just before we end, someone mentioned the importance of learning in Arabic, etc. Inshallah, they're asking us to provide future lectures. Inshallah, that's something possibly for Dr. Suhaib to try and organize maybe in the future. And if anything comes up, we'll announce it, inshallah. So barakallah feekum. Thank you everyone for giving us your time. We appreciate it. Anything you want to catch up on, it's on YouTube. And this is Assalamu alaikum from me and from Sister Asma and Dr. Dhiya. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.